morning. How are you all this morning? My name is Ruth Finney, and this is You Can Talk. This is You Can Talk. For those of you who may be new to me, this is a channel where I talk about all the ways that we can improve our relationships through communication and how we communicate with our spouses, with our friends, our family members, all the people that we care about in our lives. So that we can have better relationships, And this morning, I wanted to talk about feeling justified. If you are in a space where you are struggling, your relationship is struggling, and you are trying to make some changes. Maybe you've put forth the effort to make some changes, and you're a little bit fed up, you're a little bit frustrated, or maybe you're finding it very hard to make changes because it's hard to do. Often it is very hard to make changes in areas where we feel justified in the way that we are. So if we feel that we are doing the best that we can, or that we've done all we can, and that there's nothing more that we can do, then we won't feel like there's anything more that we can do. And so we tend to want to give up, and we feel like, well, I've done this and I've done that, and it makes us want to not put forth any effort. So we feel justified in our actions, we feel justified in our behavior, and we feel justified in the way that we communicate, right? Maybe we feel like, well, I've tried to be nice, or I've tried to, be kinder or more considerate, or I've tried to be quiet and listen more and all that, and I'm frustrated because it's just not working, right? So we find reasons and ways to justify our behaviors, or we find reasons and ways to justify why we don't want to put forth any more effort. So I wanted to talk a little bit this morning about what that justification does, what justification does when we have that mindset of feeling justified in our relationships. Good morning, Unbroken Sylvia Sunshine. Blessings to you, my sister. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome in this morning. Rashika Conyers, welcome. I appreciate you all being here. And blessings to you as well. So I pray you all are doing good this morning. And I won't keep you all long, but we're going to talk about what justification does. So when we have a mindset of being justified and feeling justified, hello, Lorraine, how are you? Good to see you this morning. Good to see you. Welcome in, welcome in. We're talking about feeling justified in the way that we are. When we feel justified, it causes us to have to think about whether or not our gratification over a thing is more important to us than our spouses or our partner's hurt behind it. Okay? I'm going to say that again. When we feel justified about a matter, it causes us to have to think about whether our gratification over a thing, over what it is that we're doing, over what we've said, over how we are, is more important than our spouse's hurt behind it. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples. For instance, when we feel justified, right, or when we feel, we have to think about, is it more gratifying for us to feel right, to be right, or to prove our point, right? Sometimes we can feel so gratified in making sure that we got our point across, or that we're right, that they admit that we're right, that we don't worry about trying to keep peace, right? Keeping peace in the relationship becomes not as important as feeling gratified and justified by our ability to prove our point, or for them to say that we're right. Another example is it more important, right? Is it more gratifying for us to be able to for our partners to agree with us, or for our spouses to agree with what we're saying, or for them to have the same mindset as us? Or can we just feel gratified in our ability to be able to express what we're feeling, even though we may feel differently, and be able to respect that we feel different about a thing, and to not be able to treat them differently because they feel differently, than us? Because sometimes when people feel different than us, we have a hard time treating them with a certain level of respect, right? Because we feel like, well, you're just being stupid, or you're being idiotic, or you're not thinking about this, you're not thinking this through, right? Whatever it is, we want them to agree with us. We want them to feel the way we feel about a matter. And sometimes it's more important and more gratifying for them to agree with us than it is for us to be able to respect the fact that we may feel differently about a thing. So again, that's where that justification comes in. That's where that justification comes in. And then another way that we use, feeling justified over our keeping peace and over the health of our relationships is when we're doing the things that we want to be doing, right? When we feel justified in living our lives the way we want to live them, right? We are happy doing the things that we're doing. We enjoy the things that we're doing. And so we give no mind to how it may make our partners or our spouses feel behind us doing our thing, right? Maybe you like spending, 50, 60, 70, 80% of your time in church. And maybe your spouse doesn't feel quite the same spending that much time in church. And so we're like, well, we feel justified. We can easily justify that because we feel like, well, I'm doing this for God, or I'm doing this work for the Lord, right? And so we don't worry about how much time we're not spending with our spouses, or how much time we're not spending with our um, with them because we're doing the work of the Lord, right? Turn it around with your family. Maybe you have a very close knit family, or a very close knit group of friends, and you all like to spend a lot of time together because maybe that's what you've always done. And so, you feel justified, like, these are my friends, these are my family. I'm always going to spend time with them. I'm always going to or maybe you have a very successful career, right, in the work that you do, and so you feel like I'm bringing in all this money, or I'm building my career, or I'm working on getting us to a new place in where we are, a new level or whatever. And so we feel justified in what we're doing, and so we don't work to make any changes, no matter how it makes our partners feel. And then boom, there goes the health of the relationship. We start creating distance in the relationship. We start sensing some bitterness in the relationship. But because we feel justified in what we're doing, we feel justified in how we are, we don't work to make any changes. So it's really hard. It's really hard if we're not willing to see our role in a problem. Because if we aren't willing to see our role, and if we're just constantly justifying our behaviors, justifying why we're doing the things that we're doing, then we'll never work to make any change, and we'll never put forth any effort to make any change. And therein lies the problem. Therein lies the problem. When we're in a relationship, it involves sacrifice, a certain level of sacrifice. Um, and maybe you feel like, well, I'm making all the sacrifice and they're not making any, right? And so therefore, I'm done making sacrifices. So, and we feel justified in that, and we feel justified in that. Um, but we have to change that mentality. We have to change that mentality of feeling justified, because then we won't ever work towards putting forth any effort. Um, a lot of times we feel like when something is not broken, then we're not going to work to fix it. And if our spouses or if our partners are complaining about a thing, then we think that everything is all good. And therefore, we're not even willing to try to see where things could be better. Maybe where we could put forth a little more effort, even when we know it. Sometimes we know that we could be better. We know we need to do better. We know we need to be kinder. We know we need to be maybe more firm. Maybe we need to be more compromising, or a little less compromising. Whatever it is, we know that we need to make changes, and yet we find it very difficult to do because we feel justified in our behaviors and in our actions. Good morning, the fruitful wife. How are you? Good to see you. Blessings to you, my sister. Blessings. I pray that all is well with you this morning. So we are talking about feeling justified, feeling justified. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate it truly, because, the older we get, the harder that is to do, the harder that is to do. So thank you for the compliment. So yes, we're not willing to put forth any effort in trying to be better. Who we are starts with what we believe, right? If we believe that we are being our best selves in our relationships, then we will not, you know, try to be any better. We will not see where we can be better. If we believe that we've done everything, that we're doing it all, and our spouses aren't doing anything, then we won't work to try to communicate. We won't work to change our actions. We won't work to change our behavior. We won't work to change our attitudes. We won't work to change the way we talk to them, the way we respond to them, the way we love on them. We won't work to do any of that. So, it starts with what we believe. And more often than not, we feel like the issues that we're having are the cause of the other person anyway, right? It's the other person's fault anyway as to why we're even having these problems. So, and we'll say things like, well, if they hadn't have done this, or if they hadn't have said this, then I wouldn't do that. Or if they had responded differently, then I wouldn't have behaved that way, or I would have done something differently. We come up with all these reasons uh, why it's their fault, and we justify our behavior, or we'll say things like, well, if they would just do more of this, or do less of this, then I won't be this way. I won't do these things. And so again, we make it their fault. We justify our lack of doing or our lack of change because we feel like we've made it their fault. It's their issue, it's their problem. And then when they change, then I'll change. And so therefore we either quit putting forth effort, or we put forth the most minimal effort possible, right? We're like, well, I'll do this, but this is all I'm going to do, right? This is all I'm willing to do. So, and then nothing changes, nothing improves, nothing gets better. So this is why that mentality of feeling justified gets us in trouble. It gets us in trouble. When because we're constantly reviewing things over and over again in our minds, as to what our next move is going to be, or whether or not we're even going to be willing to engage in conversation and talk to the person, because if they're not making the changes that we think that they should be making, if they are not doing the things that we think that they should be doing, then we feel justified in not doing anything either. And the bottom line is, we're called to be our best selves. And one of the things that I always have to keep in mind is that I don't have to answer. I have to answer to God, right? I absolutely have to answer to God. And I always imagine myself standing before the Lord and God saying to me, why didn't you, treat your husband this way? Or why didn't you, do this thing that you were supposed to do as a wife? And you can reverse this if you're a man and you're standing before the Lord and he says, why didn't you, be that leader in the house that I called you to be? Why didn't you, you know, watch over your family the way I called you to watch over? Why weren't you being your best self? And I cannot go to God and say, well, I didn't because he didn't, right? Or I didn't because she didn't. That's not acceptable to God. That's not acceptable to him. He calls us to be our best selves at all times, in all things that we do, regardless of what the other person is doing or not doing, until he tells us that we can do differently, right? Until he says, okay, you've done it all. I'm not calling you to do any more than what you're doing. But until he says that, until we hear that from him, we have to continue being our best selves. So, and that's not easy. That's not always easy to do, because we want to see people responding to us the way we want to see them responding. We want them to react to us in the ways that we think that they should be reacting. And when that doesn't happen, then we stop, then we quit, we give up, we fold, we give in, or just the opposite. We start to get angry. We start to, get jealous, or just live our own lives, or do what we want to do. Good morning, Minister of Music, Terrence Trower. How are you this morning? Good to see you. Blessings to you. Blessings to you. I'm happy to see everyone this morning. So, yeah, we're just talking about, when we get into a mind state of feeling justified in our behavior, and then we don't work to make any change. So instead of looking for reasons to justify your actions, to justify the way that you're talking to the person, right? When we know we're not being our best selves, then we need to develop the mindset of, what kind of outcome do we want? right? What kind of outcome? What is the particular outcome that we want? And what is most important so that we can decide what we can let go of. And more often than not, that requires us to let go of our ego. It requires us to let go of our pride. It requires us to let go of those things that are preventing us from doing what we know that we're supposed to be doing. Okay, and so we have to change that mindset of feeling justified. If you automatically see in your mind that you are looking for an excuse as to why you're not going to do it, boom, right there, you need to change it. You need to change it. Say, regardless that they have not done what I've asked them to do, regardless of what, how they spoke to me, regardless of, that last argument we just had, I'm still going to get up and be the husband, be the wife, be the person that I'm supposed to be in this relationship. Because you don't want to be the reason. You don't want to be the reason that things didn't work out. You don't want to be the excuse that things didn't work out. You want to be able, if you're going to walk away from a relationship, if you're going to end a marriage, then you want to know that you put forth your very best effort in everything that you did to try to make that relationship work. Because what causes people to have the most amount of regret, and what people struggle with after they end a relationship, is that thought of knowing that they could have done more, they could have been better. Did I really put forth my best effort? I'm telling you, time and time again, I talk to people, and I've been in that position myself, where I where I know I could have been better. I could have spoken better. I could have done things better. I didn't do what I was supposed. I didn't do fully what I was supposed to do. I wasn't my best self in that relationship, and the reason I wasn't is because I justified my behavior because of what they weren't doing. That's not what we want. That's not what you want to be struggling with. If the relationship doesn't work out, you want it to be because it was not the relationship for you, right? The other person maybe decided that, you know, I'm not being my best, like that you deserve more, right? You want them to be able to say, you know what, you deserve more than who I'm being because I haven't been my best self, right? Not because you weren't being your best self. That's what you want to be able to say. You want to walk away from a relationship, or, if you're going to make that decision to divorce, to say, you know what, I gave this my all. I put my everything into this. I I did everything that I knew that I could do, and I did it to the best of my abilities, and it still didn't work. And when you can walk away, and when you can say that and be able to walk away, you will have peace about that decision. Most of the time, people struggle with that decision of divorcing or separating, or just not being with the person anymore, because they know that they could have been better. They weren't being their best self. They weren't the person that they said that they were going to be when they were in the dating phase of their relationship, right? Because um, when we're dating, we're like, we put our best suit on, right? We put on our best dress. We're like fully prepared to do it all, and then we get in the relationship, and we get lazy. We get lazy, and we just look for excuses as to why we're not going to do something. It's like, well, yeah, I would have done that, but you started being this way, or you started doing this, and so now I don't feel any reason to do anything more than what I'm doing. And that's not what we're called to do. If you're a believer, if you are saved, we are called to be our best self no matter what. And so, yes, absolutely, unbroken sunshine. I'm going to do my part no matter what. And it can be hard. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that it's easy, because people can make it really hard for us to do what we're called to do when we feel like it's not being appreciated, when it's not being acknowledged, or when they're not, when it's not being reciprocated, when they're not giving it back. But we don't answer to them. We answer to the Lord. We answer to the Lord, and we got to say, God, I'm doing everything that I need to do. If there's something different I need to do, let me know. If I can be doing more, let me know. So, do what you're called to do. I'm grateful to see it was not for me. God removed it. Yes, absolutely. You're right. I'm broken. Good morning, Bernstein Closet. How are you, my sister? Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for being here this morning. So I just wanted to pop in this morning and encourage you all that if you're in a space in your relationship where you are struggling and things are not going the way you think that they should be going, and you have already come up with the reasons in your mind as to why you're at a point where you're not willing to put forth any more effort, right? You can put a list together, right, of all the reasons. Get rid of that list. Get rid of that list. Be your best self. Be the best person in the relationship, and get to a point where if it's not working out, it's because they know that you deserve better, and not because you weren't being your best self. Not because you weren't being your best self. Okay? So that's all I wanted to share with you all this morning. I got to head into work, and I just wanted to encourage you all with that this morning. And you all have a phenomenal day. Um, be the light in the relationship. Be the light in the world and be the light in the relationship. Be the example. Be the example. Make them feel guilty that maybe they should be doing more versus you feeling like you should be doing more. Make them feel guilty. Put it on them. Like, hey, I'm doing everything no matter what. And because when we're being our best selves and our partners know that they're not, they'll either rise up to the plate and do what they are called to do, or they will bow out, or they will bow out, and that's what it is. So you be the light, you be the example, you be the best that you can be in the relationship, no matter what. Quit looking for reasons to justify not doing what you know that you should be doing. All right. I love you all. Be blessed. Have a phenomenal day. It's hump day. We're going to get through the rest of this week. And I will see you all back here, Lord willing, on Friday morning. All right. Take care. Blessings. Bye bye.